Hi, everybody, and welcome to the DogCo Secrets podcast. My name is Michelle Klein. I'm your host, and I am also the founder of DogCo Launch, where pet care companies come to grow and scale. In today's episode, I want to talk about making feedback into a system, and I specifically want to talk about sending an annual client survey. So, this is something that, or biannual, but annual at a minimum. And this is something that I have talked about before on this podcast, but I still tend to get a lot of questions on the tactics of how exactly to do it. So I want to break down very tactically how to run a feedback survey in a way that gets you really good information, but in a way that doesn't overcomplicate it. It doesn't get you way more than you need, because that's also a risk. This also is the same structure that I use within DogCo still. This is the structure that I used in my pet care business. I brought it over into DogCo and I still use it. I actually survey more frequently within DogCo. I tend to survey on a quarterly basis, maybe every 4 months instead of quarterly, but I survey much more frequently, and this is still the same model that I use. Okay, so first things first, what questions to ask and how to structure the survey. 10 questions max. And the questions should be an assortment of client experience, client satisfaction, questions that are open-ended, geared towards getting you marketing statements that you can pull out. And I will tell you my favorite here in a bit. And then questions also that give you a sense of people's likelihood to refer. Questions that give you a sense of how people are experiencing your staff if you are team-based as they work with their pet in their homes. So obviously that's quite a large swath of questions that you could ask. I would encourage you, don't overcomplicate it. Keep the questions short and direct. I honestly recommend using Google Forms. You can use other surveys like Typeform or something like that. The biggest thing I would say, I tend to be pretty system agnostic generally with whatever you pick. Pick a survey where they can see all the questions at one time. I've worked with some companies that have wanted to do these like rotating questions where it's like you answer a question and then it loads a new one. That looks really clean. I think people tend to fatigue after 3 or 4 questions. They start wondering how long it's going to be. They start just kind of like, I want to get this over with, and flipping through it much more quickly. So when they can see all the questions, that I have found tends to be the best. The question that I said that I really like for marketing that's open-ended, how have we served or helped your family in the last year? One of the reasons I like this, some clients are going to take that incredibly literally. They're going to look at that question and they're going to be like, well, you walked my dog. Great. Probably a little bit less helpful than it could be, but still, that is what they saw value in. Some people, though, are really going to dig deep and give you like beautiful statements of how you have really helped and served their family. Those are the ones that you're going to want to pull and use as marketing statements. There is nothing stronger than a marketing statement written by a client themselves as somebody that has experienced your service. Okay, so we're going to do Google Form. How to distribute. I recommend starting with your software, sending out the link. If you can do like a mass message, great, or a mass email, make it really easy. Embed the form directly into the message. Start with an email. You are going to need to send at least 2, if not 3 requests over a mass email to get survey responses. Give people a deadline. And then the real trick, give a one-on-one nudge to everyone that you really care their opinion of. So your regular clients, you're going to want to reach out personally to say, hey, I really want your specific feedback included. As far as rate of return, the statistic I've heard is that between 20 and 30% return is pretty solid. I really want 80 to 90 through DogCo. I've been able to swing that so far, but it's because I actually keep track of people and then reach out to them individually to get feedback multiple times if they haven't, because I really do care. I think that probably is overkill as you are scaling and more established. DogCo is younger than many of your companies, so I want to make sure I do my due diligence there, but 20 to 30% getting you a return, because really you're looking for a sample size. And that's probably a good enough sample size. Okay, so the biggest thing I want you to do, I do not want you to read individual survey submissions as they come through. You can do that later. The problem if you do it on the way in, the first negative one, you're going to spiral and start redesigning the entire business. My recommendation, get all the surveys in, export them to a spreadsheet that you then download and feed into AI, and ask it to give you a summary and an analysis of the feedback and the themes that it sees before you read individual submissions. You are still going to want to read them. I read every single one. I pore over it. I read it line by line. I get it. However, what we want to do is we want to look for themes because the way your brain works, it is going to heavily weight towards the negative feedback and it's going to undervalue the positive feedback. Just the way our brains work, it will do this automatically. And we want to really make sure that you are getting the truest sense of the sample size. An example of this, because y'all know I try to keep this transparent and relatable. I did a feedback survey a couple months ago now through DogCo, and I got, 88% of clients filled it out, which was great. No, 91. It was high. Whatever it was high. 96% of the feedback surveys we got were kind. They were supportive. Some of them had constructive feedback, of course, but 96% of these surveys said, I would recommend this program to another colleague in this industry. 3% of them indicated hesitation. 1% of them, it was just like a flat out no, like this was not for me. I do not recommend. Okay, so mostly I'm telling this story to expose myself because what I should have done is look at the themes. I should have been like, Michelle, 96%, like that's strong. We don't have a bucket that is bleeding over. And instead, I went and filmed a personal Loom for the company that said no, where I was like, here are all the ways that I hope you find value. And all the ways that I think from what you said, we can help. And I don't know, there's probably something to be said for caring that deeply, but also 1% is not reflective of the entire program. Now I'm just talking about me. 1% of your client base is not a reflection of everyone else. So I really want to encourage you, look at it as a whole before you start to dig in and analyze individually. And I will say once you get to the individual analysis, that is going to open up opportunities where you can do things like reach out and be like, hey, I care about your experience. Hey, you said this. Hey, I don't know if you've seen this, but I think it actually would fix some of the stuff that you feel isn't going well. Like it's going to give you that opportunity. You should take that opportunity. But what you shouldn't let it do is color your perception of everybody else. Okay, so we talked about how to analyze your feedback. We've talked about how to set up the structure of your form, how to send it out, how to get more people to fill it out, which is the one-to-one. Talked about how to analyze. I do recommend using AI for this. How to implement. So once you see clear themes in the survey of areas that the business should consider improving, that is where you can do the deep dive. Most likely, these are going to be operational tweaks. And I guess the biggest thing that I would say here as far as how to implement, there's a quote from Y Combinator that I think about a lot, which is the client is often 100% correct about the problem. They oftentimes are incorrect in the solution that they propose. And not because they don't care, not because they aren't strategic or smart, but just because they don't have the context that you do across the entire business. So I would hold the solutions that people present in a feedback survey really, really loosely, but I would take the problems they present, especially if you see that as a theme echoed across multiple clients. If it's a majority, for sure, there's a problem. Otherwise, there's some nuance just to see what they're bringing to you. But as you see problems, take those seriously, but you're going to want to apply your own context and understanding towards what might be the correct solution. Okay, and then final thing about survey implementation that I personally really, really like to do, and that is transparency on the results of what came to you. Now, I do want to nuance this. When I say transparency, I do not mean here's a full analysis of every single piece of feedback that we got and how nuances of how people are feeling. I don't think that's helpful. I think that's better addressed one-on-one if you see an opportunity or something that needs to be discussed. Instead, when I say transparency, I more so mean here are themes that we saw of areas that you guys really feel that our service serves you. Here are themes of improvement that we saw reflected broadly, and here's how we're going to tackle them. That I think is really powerful. I just leave it to you as the business owner on if you decide that it's helpful, because I don't think it's helpful to do this like expose on the internal workings of the business. There needs to be a curtain. The curtain's there for a reason. But I do think it can be powerful to be like, here's some of what we heard. Here's how seriously we take it. Here's what we're looking at. Like pulling back the curtain a little bit, 20 to 30%, just so they can see, wow, they really value what I think, what I said. And then it's on you as the business owner to decide what to do with that later. All right, I hope this was helpful. It was a little bit more of like a step-by-step tactic. Let me know on social media what you think. Talk to y'all soon.